My God, we thank you for a new week to learn, to study as we explore what it means to be a people of thankfulness. And we thank you for our Thanksgiving muffins. Amen. Thank you for bringing our Thanksgiving. Are they cupcakes, muffins? They're pumpkin. Okay. Pat brought them. I had this bright idea when I saw those this morning. I think we should do a day that's the food of the Bible or something. And we all just maybe we'll look ahead of time and we all bring some kind of dish and we can pretend like it's a Bible lesson and eat food. What'd you say? I think it's weird when we have a lot of wine at church, but I guess that would really fit with, it would match. So, today we are going to look at the Thanksgiving Psalms. Did everybody get notes? Are they making their way around? Did we run out?
I think we ran out. Start over there.
We got more coming. And just as a reminder for where we are, so we started in our first week, we looked at all of the Psalter. We learned how there is a story that goes throughout the Psalms. Then we kind of zoomed into individual Psalms. We talked about how to read them. We learned about the ways in which Hebrew poetry works. We will ever so slightly reference again today that reading guide, which is what we looked at the first 2 weeks. I don't think next week we're going to really pull that up again. I just wanted to draw our attention to it. Last week, we looked at the Lament Psalms. And today, we're going to do Thanksgiving Psalms. So I did tell you last week, if it was too sad, which maybe it was for some people because we're a little less than we were before, we are getting past them. But the reason we started with the Lament Psalms last week is because most of the Psalms are Lament Psalms. They make up about a third of the Psalter. They are special because they give voice to our grief, our complaint, confusion, and sorrow that we have before God. I very much enjoyed writing out a Lament Psalm last week. It was incredibly cathartic for me. I cried more than I think I've cried in any lesson we've ever done in here. And let me tell you, I thought it would be the opposite, that I would have it find it very easy to write Thanksgiving. I struggled writing Thanksgiving Psalms this week, but it was so easy to write lament. And I found that quite shocking, and I am curious to hear after class what kind of experience that you might have. One quick question. Does anybody know the song Count Your Blessings? Count your blessings, name them. Oh, okay, all right. Nobody last night knew that song. And I was utterly shocked. Wait, are you missing one thing? Oh, no, you haven't. Okay. Okay. Thank you for knowing that song. I feel. Do what?
Does that one have a numbers?
It's not in our hymnal, which might be why some people don't know it. But I'll show it to you at the end. We also talked ever so slightly about the structure that lament psalms go to. They will usually begin with an address. They will go towards their complaint. They will go toward their petition. So they name the problem. They ask God to do something about it. And then they will end with an expression of trust in God and then some type of vow or of praise. We taught you that structure. The very first psalm that we looked at very clearly followed that psalm. And then I proceeded to show you 2 other psalms that do not follow that structure. We will do the same thing today. The reason, though, is we're learning it like this is there is a general flow. And once I know the general flow, we can see how it's different. And so what we did last week when we looked at the 2 extra psalms, Psalm 22, throughout the whole psalm had these expressions of trust. It went an address, complaint, trust, a petition, trust. It had trust throughout. And so even though it was a lament psalm, Psalm 22 is actually a trust psalm. And once you know that structure, you can see how it ends like that. Then we played our last psalm, which is where we kind of ended class, that goes through all of this, but there's no vow or praise. It goes back and it ends with its complaint. And that teaches us something about psalms and about prayer, that we bring our full selves to God, And sometimes it doesn't end up happy, but we can have our full expression of emotions before God. And so that's kind of our key takeaway from the Lament Psalms last week. They are not the opposite of faith, they are an act of faith, because we go to God as a God who hears us and a God who acts. That was what we looked at last week. This week, it's Thanksgiving Psalms. When I think about Thanksgiving, I think about Thanksgiving, which is my favorite holiday, in part because of the food. Also because you don't have to be at church on Thanksgiving. That's nice when you work in a church because you actually get the day. We are going to learn today, though, about what they are. Thanksgiving is any prayer of gratitude, maybe offered after some type of deliverance, some type of healing or blessing. It's something about God's help. And so we want to tie this in. When we talk about Thanksgiving Psalms, it's about God helping us. Just so you know terms that I use, when I talk about praise, I typically will mean like praise is about God and who God is. Whereas thanksgiving is about what God has done or what God has given us. Does that make sense for the difference? Right? Okay, so I praise God because God is such a holy God and God is so powerful. It's all about God. Thanksgiving, I lift up my praise to God, or I'm thankful for God because God has provided me this or delivered me from this situation. Praise would be like maybe more personal. Thanksgiving would be more circumstantial. But good thanksgiving always leads to praise. And that's sort of the key that I want us to see today is how thanksgiving leads to praise. It will always, with an asterisk, lead to praise. There is a general structure, and let me make one note. If you look up a structure for Thanksgiving, everyone will say there is a different structure. These are the things that I think are important to identify in Thanksgiving Psalms. And if this is too confusing of an outline, I have another one I'll show you in just a second. That's 3 parts. Usually they're going to start with some type of call to worship or a statement of praise. They will then go through a recollection of distress. So I praise God or I call upon God. This is what happened to me, which a lot of times we're going to see from the psalmist or David. I was brought in the pit, or I was in distress, or I was in pain, I was sick, I was on the brink of death, I was surrounded by my enemies, some type of situation, and there's a cry for help. And so instead of wallowing in this distress, Thanksgivings will say, remind us how, but then I reached out to God, or I called out to God. Then it will show the divine deliverance, and then they'll end with the statement of thanksgiving, and that might be some type of sacrifice of thanksgiving where the psalmist kind of dedicates themselves to God, very much like that vow or praise that we saw, or it will be some type of witness to other people. Oh, okay. If this is too confusing of an outline, here is a simpler version, which will also work for our praise psalms when we get there. There will be a call to thanksgiving or praise. You will state a reason for your thanksgiving or praise, and it will end with another call to thanksgiving or praise. That might be a little bit easier of an outline for you to follow, and I kind of came up with that one retroactively after I finished the presentation, so I stuck it in later. But I want to just track the flow, that we start with this call to thanksgiving or praise. We state the reason. We state the situation we were in. We state how God came and helped us. And then it flows to the next call to thanksgiving or praise is for others. And so my Thanksgiving Psalms, they are about me. I start with me being thankful, but they end with me pulling others into praise. So that first call is kind of about me. That second call is for others. Does that make sense there? Okay.
Alexander, this book that I'm reading, Inwardly Digest, which I highly recommend to anybody, just the part I was reading last night, he was delineating the difference between adoration and praise and thanksgiving. And he talks about thanksgiving being about events in the past.
Yeah.
Driven by past events. This is when we give thanks for what God has already done for us, with us, and through us, etc. But then, as you said, praise is directed toward God.
Yeah.
It's driven by us.
I'll tell you about this. I didn't put this in my notes, but so I have shared this before. My family had this thing called a WHAM box. It was wonder, adoration, and for the life of me, cannot remember what that M stood for. But we had this little, like the bird feeders that have glass on the front and there's the hole on the top? So anytime something happened that we were thankful for, we wrote it on an index card, we rolled it up, and we stuck it in the wham box. I think the last one was like memory or something. I can't remember. But every Thanksgiving, we would pull out the wham box. And so we would go back and read our Thanksgivings. I might come back to this when we get after our second psalm of why that's important. But now that my family is bigger, we no longer have a wham box. But what we do, my mom makes us write down one Thanksgiving on a rock every Thanksgiving, and then we will look at it the next year. And so that's a really good practice. It is special because I don't remember those things. And that's really where Thanksgiving comes up. It reminds us, maybe in the dark times or in someone else's dark times, about the things that have happened in the past. Here's the thing with these, the key takeaway. Thanksgiving Psalms will connect my experience to communal worship. And so they're going to reflect on my past blessings. They're going to be finding blessings, maybe even if I can't look for them. And then I will share those with others. But I really want us to get the grasp. Thanksgiving Psalms are just as much for everyone else as they are for me. And that's true with our prayers as well. We write them for ourselves, yes, but we share them for others. Because I might be in my lament phase and I need to hear your thanksgiving to help me see that light at the end. And that's sort of what we're going to see throughout some of these. Why do these matter? They matter because they're part of our worship. This is a modern painting, but it's the Eucharist. It's like communion, so that's Jesus, and that's like the elements at a table. Beside him, on the other sides, are apostles. You can't see the full picture. Have you heard us or noticed in our liturgy on Sundays, when we're doing the Eucharistic liturgy, we will say, and we offer our sacrifice of praise and thanksgiving. Okay? That language comes from Psalm 116, which we will read today, and that became the standard for Christian worship, which is why, here in our church at least, we call it the Eucharist. No one in the world knows what that means, but it's a good word. It's a word that means thanksgiving. You may have even seen it sometimes in our bulletin that it might mean to become thanksgiving, but that is what we come to do in worship. We offer ourselves as a sacrifice of thanksgiving. And so we come giving Eucharist, and we also become Eucharist. And that's true both in communion, but the whole service, it's a sacrifice of my thanksgiving and my praise to God. From the first century, Christians were using these terms, and it comes back to Psalm 116. So they didn't decide to call the service what do I get from God, or my turn to church shop. It's, no, I came here to offer my sacrifice of praise and thanksgiving to God. It's a special term. And so to the heart of what we are as Christians, as people who follow God, we are a thankful people. This is what we are. We are the thanksgiving. Not just that we have thanksgiving, we become the thanksgiving. Okay. Psalms give us words to thank God even when our stories are messy, and it turns our suffering into testimony. It's a reminder of those past things, which are never straight, easy stories, but it's a recollection back on the past of where you see God kind of came through with you. They're going to teach us to remember and retell God's faithfulness. And remember that structure, we praise, we remember the trouble, we talk about how God rescued us, we offer our thanks to God, and it leads to that public witness for others. Random fun facts in the back, which I put different fun facts on the back of on the handout. About 10 to 15% of the Psalter would be what we call Thanksgiving Psalms. And I also put that in there to remind me to tell you that sometimes it can be hard to delineate a psalm as a thanksgiving or a praise, because sometimes they bleed over. And so just as a reminder for the terms, when I think of thanksgiving, it's about stuff that God has done. When I think of praise, it's about who God is. Sometimes those might be the same thing. They are scattered throughout the Psalter. So we talked about how lament psalms are concentrated toward the beginning, and they get less and less, and they turn into more praise. Thanksgiving is found all throughout. I don't know if this is true, but I think that most people, when they think of Psalms, might be more familiar with some of the Thanksgiving Psalms, because there are other types of Psalms like the anger Psalms that we'd never read, or like we'll get next week will be the confession Psalms. We only read them during Lent, really, but these ones we do read a lot. So some of them might sound familiar to you, at least pieces of them. Also, a lot of our hymns, even if we might not say these Psalms, they're based on them. Like hymn 433, we gather together to ask the Lord's blessing. It's based here on the Psalms. Okay, all right, we have an opening discussion, and I just want you to be warned. This is probably the longest question I've ever asked. So be ready for some real intense thinking. What is something you're thankful for right now? Just kidding, it's not a long question. That is our first question, though. There is space for you to answer on your back. Feel free to share with one another something you're thankful for right now. second warning. This is question 1. Yeah. I was just asked, so I will draw this to our attention. If you're looking at the back of your paper, we just did number 1, which is just naming something that you're thankful for. We're going to sort of follow this format. I think it's kind of what we're going to settle on. Same as we did last week, we'll do this week, where we'll kind of move through the Psalms that pull out a different part and go piece by piece as we learn to write, and hopefully it'll become more and more natural as we go throughout our class of, wow, where's my mouse? Of the Psalms. So we're going to transition to beginning to look at the Psalms. Remember this reading guide? We always start when we look at a Psalm. We notice that title piece, the superscription, to look for the author or context, or if it's one to be sung or not sung. I always just encourage you, circle and mark if you see imagery words. Again, we're going to see a lot of the pit. That means death. Put it in emotion or language that makes sense to you. Ask what's the main emotion. Look for those Hebrew poetry. Remember, it's based on repetition. Ask, why are things repeating this way? It doesn't rhyme. It repeats with thought. There was the other ones that we looked at. And this was the lament structure we looked at last week. But now we're going to look for our Thanksgiving structure. The Thanksgiving structure is here on the handout. We're going to start by looking at a call to worship. Then we'll go through a recollection of our distress. We name the situation. There is a cry for help. There is a recounting of the divine deliverance. And it ends with a statement of thanksgiving and a witness. First question, though, before we look at Psalm 30. What does Thanksgiving sound like to you?
Joy.
Yeah, how would you describe it? What is it? What's the volume like? Yeah, joyful, like joyful, joy. Like, it's kind of like there's a lot of energy. When I think about Thanksgiving, I think of the way I teach. It's like a little too much energy there. But I want to play you something. There's a show I think there's like a season came out. Same people that made The Chosen made a show called House of David. So we're about to read Psalm 30. I want you to hear this rendition of it sung in Hebrew. Okay? Now, remember, this is like the quintessential Thanksgiving psalm. Okay? So this is their rendition of how a Thanksgiving psalm sounds like. Here's one thing I want us to remember before we look at the Psalms. Thanksgiving is not just an overabundance of jubilance. It's an intentional act of thanking God no matter the circumstances. I put that as kind of the summary statement here at the top of the front page of the notes. And I just want us to remember that. Remember, Thanksgiving Psalms are often going to talk about distress. So they're not like lament Psalms where they just stay in the grief, but it does recount the distress that you have gone through and then attributes the thankfulness to God. So I just want us to keep that in mind. They might not always sound like joyful, joyful, we adore thee. Sometimes they might be guttural and emotional. And so, just as we always do, we are going to read Psalm 30. I will just remind you, this is a psalm of David. And as it says in the title or superscription, this was one that was to be sung at the dedication of the temple. I put this as a fun fact on the back of the handout too. They might have also sung this maybe during healings. So if you have been sick, you will see why when we read it in just a moment. But just remember, this is one they sung when they dedicated the temple, which is just kind of cool. That's how this psalm would have been used. So I will read until the star, and you respond in the second half. I will exalt you, O Lord, because you have lifted me up.
And have not let my enemies triumph over me.
O Lord, my God, I cried out to you.
And you restored me to health.
You brought me up, O Lord, from the dead.
You restored my life as I was laid down to the grave.
Sing to the Lord, you servants of his.
Give thanks for the remembrance of his holiness.
For his wrath endures but the twinkling of an eye.
His favor of a lifetime.
Weeping may spend the night.
But joy comes in the morning.
While I felt secure, I said, I shall never be disturbed.
You, Lord, give your favor and change on his mountains.
Then you hid your face.
But I was filled with fear.
I cried to you, O Lord.
I pleaded with the Lord, saying,
What profit is there in my blood if I go down to the pit?
will dust praise you and declare your faithfulness?
Hear, O Lord, and have mercy upon me.
O Lord, be my helper.
You have turned my wailing into dancing.
You have aroused my sackcloth and clothed me with joy.
Therefore my heart sings to you without ceasing.
O Lord, my God, I will give you thanks forever.
A few things just about this psalm. So this is known in part as the psalm, this line right here in verse 5, weeping may spend the night, but joy comes in the morning. That may have been a phrase you have heard before. It comes from Psalm 30. Other people also will think about this psalm as my wailing turns into dancing. And I think that is a quintessential summary of what Thanksgivings are. It tells you about the hard parts, but then it moves us into the hard parts are not there forever. It moves us into that Thanksgiving. As we kind of will outline this psalm, which I'm not going to put them all up on the screen like we did last week, but verse 1 is that call to worship or praise. I will exalt you, O Lord, because you have lifted me up and have not let my enemies triumph over me. I will exalt you, Lord. I'm stating my praise. And then it's going to go through kind of that recollection of distress. Here's what happened. I cried out to you. You restored me to health. You brought me up, O Lord, from the dead. You restored my life as I was going to the grave. And then there's this call to worship. Okay, so remember that Thanksgiving Psalms are intrinsically linked with pulling others into praise. Sing to the Lord, you servants of his. Why should I do that? Well, there might be wrath or something bad right now, but joy comes in the morning. And so it's a reminder. You may be in the dark tunnel now, but there is light there. And now for the psalmist, they're on the other side of that. Then he's going to recall his distress. This is what I went through. While I felt secure, I said, I shall never be disturbed. Lord, with your favor, made me as strong as the mountains. Then you hid your face, and I was filled with fear. He's named two distresses here. The first is related to his sickness, being restored to health. The second distress is you hid your face, I was filled with fear. It's almost like a pride comes before the fall. He thought everything was perfect, and then he didn't feel God anymore. And so he's in distress. Let's see. Then he's going to go through his cry for help. I cried out to you, O Lord. That one's very clear. And then it ends there in verse 12 with that thanksgiving and praise. Therefore my heart sings to you without ceasing, O Lord. I will give you thanks forever. He's almost vowing himself to thank God. Here's the main question, which I already answered, but why was this psalm written? There's two verses up there that name the distress.
What is illness?
Yeah, his
He
illness.
thanks for deliverance from illness.
Yeah. He names his distress. He's specific. You restored me to health. He also names his distress up here. You had hid your face, and I was filled with fear. This psalm is written because it's retelling his distress, and then it explains how God brought him out of this. And that's one thing I want us to recognize about Thanksgiving psalms. Sometimes they can seem ever so slightly transactional or something, and we'll see this some of them more. It's like, oh God, I will praise you because you helped me out. But that's not what they're saying. There is already an explicit, I am exalting you, Lord. That is just true. And this helps me do it more fully because I recognize that when I follow you, life is just better. And that's how the psalmist feels. It is not a transactional thanksgiving. It's an overflow of thanksgiving, if that makes sense. But it's not just that overabundance of jubilance. It's a choice he makes, even when he's in distress. So next time he's in distress, he can remember this and continue in thankfulness. I played for you a song about this, that one in Hebrew, that sounded a little sad. But that's not how I think about kind of psalms. So I found this beauty. You're gonna love this. I found this week or last week. It's a modern version of this. Joy comes in the morning. This is what I think of as Thanksgiving. Energy there. That is just sort of the Psalm 30. That is Psalm 30 just put into modern music and with modern words. But you can just see there in Psalm 30 how we listed our thanksgiving. I described my situation. I described how God helped me in it. I named the thanksgiving, which we already did when we built our psalm. So we're going to, one last part. Kind of our summary of Psalm 30 is that it shows us that thanksgiving comes after healing and after distress. And so sometimes to experience thanksgiving, we need to see the distress first. And that's what we learn in that psalm. Psalm 116 is going to show us something a little bit different. As a reminder, this is what's become known as like that Eucharistic psalm. There's no information about it. We don't know if it's a psalm from David or what it is. It's just there. We are going to read it in the same way, and we also will lightly talk about the structure here. So pay attention if you have your handbook in front of you, the handout. Pay attention to the structure and just ask, where is more? Where is there more of here? Okay. I love the Lord because he has heard the voice of my supplication.
Because he is inclined his ear to me whenever I call on him.
The cords of death entangled me. The grip of the grave took hold of me.
I came to grief and sorrow.
Then I called upon the name of the Lord.
Lord, praise save my life.
Gracious is the Lord and righteous.
God is full of compassion.
The Lord watches over the innocent.
I was brought very low, and he helped me.
Turn again to your rest, O my soul,
The Lord has treated you well.
for you have rescued my life from death.
My
My eyes from tears, and my feet from stumbling.
I will walk in the presence of the Lord.
In the land of the living.
I believed even when I said I have been brought very low.
In my distress, I said, no one can be trusted.
How shall I repay the Lord?
For all the good things he has done for me.
I will lift up the cup of salvation.
And call upon the name of the Lord.
I will fulfill my vows to the Lord.
In the presence of all his people.
Precious in the sight of the Lord.
His death is presence.
O Lord, I am your servant.
I am your servant, and child of your name. Your freedom and laws.
I will offer you the sacrifice of thanksgiving.
And call upon the name of the Lord.
I will fulfill my vows to the Lord.
In the presence of all his people.
In the courts of the Lord's house.
In the midst of you, O Jerusalem. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Noticing the structure here, we begin in verse 1 with our call to worship. I will love you, Lord. Again, it starts off very personal. There's a recollection of the stress. The cords of death entangled me. The grip of grave took hold of me. There is the cry to help. Then I called upon the name of the Lord. I pray, save my life. Then we describe the divine deliverance. Gracious is the Lord, full of compassion. He watches over you. We're going to then move into the rest of the psalm. And here's the question is, how does this psalm end? If you're looking at the structure, what is this whole ending part here? Like half of the psalm. It's the thanksgiving and the call to being a witness. He is calling himself to live into thanksgiving. Same way when we looked at lament psalms, we kind of looked at how they might end in some type of vow or something, that vow of praise. That is pretty much essentially what this does too. How will I repay the Lord for all the good he's done me? Well, and now he describes how he was. I will lift up that cup of salvation. I'll call upon the name of the Lord. I'll fulfill my vows. I will see myself so much like a servant. If a servant's like already dead, well, I'm like that, and my life is now God's because I have this like new life in God. I will offer you the sacrifice of thanksgiving. Again, this is those words that we adopt in our liturgy. I will call upon the name of the Lord. I will fulfill my vows in the presence of everyone. He has become this witness. So you see here in this psalm as he went through his life situation, which, by the way, like the cords of death entangling me, the grip of the grave taking hold of you, that's pretty bad stuff. But he didn't stay here. And so you can see the different focus. Lament would have like focused on this part. But for Thanksgiving psalms, they're so small. It's like, yeah, I wasn't there, but look what everything that God did. And now this has changed me, and I will state my thanksgiving and be a witness for everyone. Does that make sense there when we see it? So, yeah.
Well, I don't want to interrupt, but I'm kind of stuck on verse 15. In olden times, ancient times, I understand that there probably was an actual sacrifice that was made in giving thanks. So help me, Alexander, in modern times, put more meaning to that word, my Allie Brown sacrifice
Yeah.
of thanksgiving in today's world.
So, okay.
When I had 3 little girls and I had to do 4 heads of hair, mine and 3 girls, and get all the dresses on, that was my sacrifice. I would get to that part of the prayer and think, yes, Lord, it took a lot to get here. So, sorry.
I have such a completely different answer because I was like, well, in Leviticus and Numbers, there are 5 types of sacrifices that were to be made. 2 of them were required. There's the burnt offerings that I do for myself. There's the one I'm forgetting what it's called, but they did it once a year. I think it's the atonement ones with the lamb that represented the whole country. It's like just in case your burnt offering wasn't enough, there's one done on behalf of all of Israel. But there's 3 others that we call free will offerings, and Thanksgivings are one of them. And there's no like really stipulations. It could be a pinch of flour. It could be some salt you had left over. It's anything you had just to be thankful to God. And so when you think about it, it's what do you have that you can just show as gratitude towards God? It might include giving up something like a pigeon, but it might not. It could be like just a pinch of something or a shout of hallelujah. When you think about it like in those, like there's required sacrifices, but there's more sacrifices that aren't required. And there are more opportunities for me to express my gratitude.
Are things that we do to help others considered a sacrifice to God?
You know, I would hope so. In fact, when I was sort of writing my psalm and I thought about what am I thankful for, and what I thought about was all those moments when I've been in distress and there was nothing I could do, and the divine deliverance that I felt was through other people. And so when I go back to how do I show my thankfulness to God, in one version of what I did, it was to pay back to people sort of what they did for me. Because then I become their divine deliverance. I'm becoming the thanksgiving. That's how, when I did it 3 times, one of them, that was how I did it. So I think that could be.
That helps, thank you.
Yeah. I think a sacrifice of thanksgiving, I would, come to church, offer your sacrifice of thanksgiving, but go out in the world and do anything else. Anything that overflows from my gratitude, from what God has done or other people have done. We see here in Psalm 116 how thanksgiving is directly tied to our worship, and it's also tied to this idea of sacrifice or vow. And I want to adopt that idea of my sacrifice of thanksgiving. I am so thankful to God that I respond and I give things up to show that gratitude. Here is a sung version of this. It's from a group called the Mission House. And I thought it just expressed well. There's like this deep gratefulness towards God and then kind of returning that gratefulness with worship. It is a library.
It is a library. delivered me. I love you, Lord, for you have delivered my soul from my feet from stumbling. I will in the land of the living, my soul from my feet from stumbling. I will in the land of the living.
So when we read Psalm 30, we learned how we can recall our stories of thankfulness. We can recall those stories of God's deliverance. But here in Psalm 116, we see how that thanksgiving leads to my expression of worship to God, my vow, my sacrifice of praise back to God. So that's going to lead us to our next discussion question. First, we looked at something you're thankful for. You recalled the story of how God helped you. Now, the question is, how can you thank and praise God with this? So, in there, I love you, Lord, because you did this. Offer your own thanksgiving to God based on the thing you're thankful for. We'll still do 5 minutes for this. I'm going to get some water, so I'll be right back. The Thanksgiving we named in part one. You're just ahead of These 5 minutes feel so short. So, I hope you see somewhat what we're doing. In that very first exercise, we named something that we are thankful for. And as we saw in the second psalm, whenever we state our statement that God has come and delivered us, but it turns into something we offer back to God in thanksgiving. And so that's what we're working on, that second part, is how do I turn my thanksgiving back to God as an act of worship, a sacrifice of thanksgiving. We're going to get to the third part here in a second, and we're going to do that by looking at Psalm 138. We don't know anything else about this psalm except it is a psalm of David. That's all that we have about this. We're not really going to look at the structure as much, but I just want you to pay attention to who is this psalm for. So that's what we want to look for as we do this psalm. I will give thanks to you, O Lord, with my whole heart.
Before the gods, and I will sing your praise.
I will bow down towards your holy temple and praise your name.
Because of your love and faithfulness.
For you have glorified your name.
And you were above all things.
When I called, you answered me.
And you increased my strength within me.
All the kings of the earth will praise you, O Lord.
When they have heard the words of your mouth.
They will sing the ways of the Lord.
Praise the glory of the Lord.
Though the Lord be high, he cares for the lowly.
He perceives the haughty from afar.
Though I walk in the midst of trouble, you keep me safe.
You stretch forth your hand against the fury of my enemies, and your right hand shall save me.
For the Lord will make good his purpose for me.
O Lord, your love endures forever. Do not abandon the works of your hands.
Before we answer this, just a few comments about this psalm. You may have noticed in this very first verse, I will give thanks to you, O Lord, with my whole heart. Before the gods, I will sing your praise. You might go, hey, what's up with that, like plural gods going on right there? One thing I want to recognize, in the Old Testament, we see this kind of growth of God pulling people from bad theology to good theology or better theology, and that work still continues. And so in some of the very earliest psalms and earliest text from the Hebrew Bible, they still believed that there were other gods that did exist. Before they got into strict monotheism, I just forgot the term that we use, but it's when you worship one God instead of the other gods, rather than just believing that there is only one God. It starts with an H. I'm looking at you, Susan.
I know.
But I want to just recognize one part, that God is always still working on us. And so God reaches out to where we are, and God pulls us somewhere else. And so don't get too caught up on that part. This is not the Bible saying that other gods exist. This is the psalmist saying, I will choose my God over anything else. That is the focus of this. And we see then how this one unfolds. I give thanks to you, God. I'm going to bow down before you. I'm going to praise you because of your love and faithfulness. This one does not as much focus on the distress. What this one focuses is on who the thanksgiving is for. And so the question for this is, who is this for? Who does it name that is responding in thanksgiving here?
No, that's okay. Oh, that's okay.
Henotheism, thank you. Yeah. I wanted to say like Hedo, and I was getting caught up. And I was like, this is not debauchery. It's henotheism instead of monotheism. Nobody cares.
What's the question again?
So our question about this is, who is this psalm for? So this mentions who is turning to thanksgiving towards God. So the thing that we've learned about Thanksgiving Psalms, in the very first psalm, we looked at how we name our distress, how God helped us. That's what we did in our first exercise. The second psalm, we learned how that turns into my thanksgiving or sacrifice of thanksgiving towards God. Now we're seeing how it is a public witness. And so that's what this psalm is focusing on. In all of this here, he's named sort of what happened because of your love and faithfulness. That's really pretty much most of the distress that we get. But we see the result of this. Now all the kings of the earth will praise you. That's the rich and the powerful. And then we even learn more. Though the Lord be on high, he cares for the lowly. It's also for everyone down here. You stretch your hand for the fury of my enemies. Your right hand shall shade me. O Lord, you will make good on purposes. Your love endures forever. Do not abandon the works of your hands. We see in the midst of this how everyone else is pulled into this story. The rich and the low. And so this psalm teaches us more so about that public witness side. That when we have our stories of thanksgiving, it can become powerful for who we share those stories with. Due to time, we're not going to take the full 5 minutes to answer this. But as you kind of work on building a Thanksgiving psalm, ask the question, who needs to hear my story? Because I promise you, someone needs to hear your story. All right? And it might be us in this room. We need to hear each other's stories about our lives and where God has helped us in our lives. And so you can write this out as a call for others to see and thank God as well. And so that's, when I look at Psalm 138, is that what we just read? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, 138. That is kind of what stands out to me, is who it's for. It doesn't focus as much on the story of distress. It doesn't focus on as much on how the psalmist responds to thank God. It focuses on that public witness and towards others. So, as you build out a psalm or a statement of thanksgiving, ask, who needs to hear my story? And go share that with someone this week. Go share the story of how God helped you. Maybe that is someone in this room after class. Maybe it's a friend who was there with you in your distress, and they might need that story from you right now. Thanksgivings are about remembrance, and they're about sharing that with other people. As we kind of look towards some of our review of where we are, I just realized I never told you about this picture. It's my life is a constant flow of blessings and miracles. There is almost this sense, like when I think about Thanksgiving Psalms, it's like reading your life like a storybook and going back and highlighting all of the blessings that were there before. But sometimes we have to go and look for them. And that's kind of the whole point of Thanksgiving. It's this looking back and finding the thankfulness amongst the other situations. So remember, thankfulness, it's this prayer of gratitude after deliverance or healing or blessing. Thanksgivings are more focused maybe on something God has done or has given you rather than just praising God for just being God. They might follow sort of a complicated story, but you could think about it more simply as my call to thanksgiving and praise. I give a reason for why I am thanking and praising God, and then I call others to thank and praise God. And remember that focus. It moves toward pulling others in. And so they connect my personal experience with communal worship.
We got 2 minutes to share a quick story with you.
Yeah.
That this makes me think of. So I was in England last week, and on Friday I got the chance to go and see my soccer team play in England. It's been almost 40 years. 40 years ago, you couldn't go to a soccer game in England without being in fear of your life. It was violent, it was dangerous. And I went on Friday night, and we went to the pub before the game, which you do. The pub's got kids in it. There's a corner of the room just for the kids to play, and everybody's happy and joy. We went to the game, and I went to the restroom. In the restroom, there's 4 big, strapping guys, and me. And this guy turns to me and says, "Hey, are we safe in here?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He's opened his jacket, and he had the other team's shirt on. Now it would have been death all those years ago. But this guy just said, "I hope we're safe." We've heard it is a safe place to come. So I went outside and told my brother and the people we were with, and they were saying, "Man, it's changed a lot." So I went over to these guys and said, "Come and join us, and just let's talk soccer." So these guys came over and spent the rest of the evening with us till they went to the game. Now they separate the fans, they make the away fans go in this part of the field. So there's 4,000 of them and 38,000. So it was a great game. We won, thank God. And, but this is the thing. After the game, we went walking back into town to get a taxi home. And we just stood there talking, wait for the taxi. We hey! Turn around and see these 4 guys with their jackets wide open, showing their team colours. And we started talking again till our cab came. This is the thing. One of them walks away and he said, "We'll never forget this. The friendship and the city, we just felt so safe." And he walked away and said, "We'll never forget it." And he said, "This is the way it should be." To me, that's a gift from God.
Yeah. You know, when you have moments like that, write them down and put them in your little bird feeder. Put them in your Wham box so that you can remember it. I'm pretty sure it was like wonder, adoration, and memory. I just did not remember what the M stood for. But like when we have those moments, like, so this is the power of Thanksgiving Psalms. The next time I'm in a place and I'm like, people are fighting, and they're divisive, and it feels like humanity has no love for each other. And I go, oh, I remember that story about being in the pub. And these guys who fought each other, they ended up having, like, shared a drink and they had fun after. Maybe I can be the change around me. And that becomes the power of Thanksgiving one. So thank you for sharing that story. We see this kind of unfold as we go through these Psalms. In Psalm 30, I will exalt you, Lord, you've lifted me up. It's written because David just retold his story. It's this reminder to himself about how God delivered him. We see then what that means for me in Psalm 116. I love the Lord because he heard the voice of my supplication. But it ends, about half the psalm is how the psalmist repays God. I think I said David there. This one's not a Davidic psalm. I respond, I tell my story, and I respond back in gratitude and thanksgiving to God. And where that leads us, as we see in Psalm 138, I will give thanks to the Lord with my whole heart. And we see who it's for. Our psalms, our stories of thanksgiving serve as a witness to those around us. And so when I come to the moments where I don't see the light, I remember my thanksgiving and I go, yes. And then, going back to what Joy said, maybe I become that change that I see. So think about it like you're looking back at life as a storybook. And we're going to end with this song. And I just want to say this. I was so shocked last night that none of them had heard this song. And I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play about half of it. But this is a song my childhood grew up with. And I don't know if it's like more evangelical churches are used to this hymn. Do you know it? Yeah, okay. I thought it was one like everyone knew. And at first, I thought about this, and maybe it's because I heard it so much growing up, and I wanted to make fun of it. But the more I listened to it a few times, I was like, it is a good hymn, even though the tune gets stuck in my head and is a little annoying. But like, it's count your many blessings, name them one by one, count your many blessings, see what God has done. It's a good practice, and so we're just going to end by playing 2 minutes of this.
timbers tossed, when you are discouraged, thinking all is lost, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Are you ever burdened with a load of care? Does the cross seem heavy you are called to bear? Count your many blessings, every doubt will fly, and you will keep singing as the days go by. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has
I can't turn it down for some reason. I hope that song gets stuck in your head this week. Count your blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. We've looked at lament psalms, we've looked at thanksgiving psalms. I feel like this just gives us a good breadth of what the psalms can be. They help us remind our stories, to engage with our emotions, to turn to vow and praise toward God. Next week, we will yet again take a different turn. We will look at the penitential psalms, which, if you're not a weird person, we call those confession. And so share your Thanksgiving with someone this week, but do keep in mind, next week, we will confess. And so don't do anything wrong this week. The Lord be with you. My God, we thank you that you are a God of blessings. We thank you that we can just say thank you. Help us to become a people of thanksgiving, a people who see thanksgiving as sacrifice and as worship, and share those with others who may need to hear our stories. Amen.
Amen.
So how did your presentation?
I think it went well.
Do you?